Do you remember the first time you got paid to play the piano? I'm not sure what the very first time was for me, but I do remember when I was in college living in Chicago playing for a couple of fancy parties. One of them was at a retail event, and the organizers paid me to come and play background music for several hours. Another time, I was asked to play for a Christmas party at the home of a brain surgeon. They had all these delicious looking desserts and fancy appetizers, but when I tried the desserts, they all tasted like booze, which I wasn't really a fan of. But I did love the fact that I got paid real money to go to a fancy party and play the piano all evening. I'm Rachel Ehring, and I help pianists turn their skills into income through accompanying. Today, we aren't talking as much about accompanying as about getting paid in general for your piano skills. Often, gigs do come in the form of accompanying because think about all the musicians out there, singers, instrumentalists, choirs that need a pianist to accompany them. But there are other opportunities as well. I thought it would be fun today to go through all the different kinds of piano gigs that I've done over my career of 20 plus years. There's been a lot, so let's get started. One of my favorite gigs to play is weddings. Back when I was in my 20s, all my friends were getting married, of course, and since they all knew that I played the piano, they would often ask me to play for their wedding. A lot of times I did it for free back then, but it still gave me great experience, and now I feel very comfortable playing for weddings. In fact, I put together a resource called the Essential Wedding Pianist ToolKit. So if you're interested in playing for more weddings, be sure to check that out. I'll put the link in the description. Now, another job that I've had since I was young is playing in church. Again, when I started out, I was doing it as a volunteer at the church that I grew up in, but it gave me great experience, and I was offered my first paid church job right out of college. I've had church jobs on and off ever since, and now I play regularly at the church where I work and also often sub at other churches in the area on my Sundays off. One of the gigs I've done that doesn't necessarily pay well, but is the most fun, is playing for musical theater. Now, I know there are pianists who make this their full-time work, playing for long runs of shows in New York and such. I have never done anything like that, but I've played musical theater auditions, I've subbed for dinner theaters, played for an outdoor theater in the park, music directed kids shows, and more. Now, if this sounds fun to you, but you're not sure how to start, I would recommend starting with a kids show. They're usually shorter and less intense, and so it's a great way to get experience before diving into the deep end of playing a full-length show with professional actors. The next gig that I've dabbled in very little is ballet accompanist. When I was in grad school, I saw a poster advertising for a dance accompanist, and I figured since I played the piano, I could probably manage that. I had no idea what I was getting into, but thankfully the ballet teacher was very patient and trained me on the job because I had no experience with ballet or accompanying ballet. It was a little bit stressful at first, but once I figured out what I was doing, it was also pretty fun. So this one is a bit of a learning curve, but once you start doing it, you'll figure it out quickly. I mentioned at the beginning of the video the Christmas party I played for, but I've played for a lot of other parties as well. I recently played background music for a bridal shower, and last summer I played for a high tea at someone's house, and I've also played for birthday parties. The nice thing for these is that you typically get to choose your own music, so you can pick music that you're comfortable playing and that doesn't take a lot of practice time. One of the things that I've done a lot of is accompany choirs. It seems like choirs find me everywhere I go. In fact, my very first accompanying gig, not paid of course, was when I was in about fourth grade, and the pianist of my little church children's choir was sick one day, and so the director asked me if I wanted to play for rehearsal. I thought it was so fun, and I've been accompanying choirs ever since. I've played for church choirs, kids choirs, high school choirs, college choirs, community choirs. I've accompanied men's choirs and women's choirs, and at this point, I'll even step in and lead the rehearsal if the choir director is absent, because I've been in so many choir rehearsals that I'm pretty comfortable with what's supposed to happen. I have also had the opportunity to travel all around the world with various choirs. If you accompany a choir that goes on tour once or twice a year, you will likely be asked to travel with them. I've been to Europe, Asia, Canada, Hawaii, and all over the US on choir tours. Another gig I did that I really enjoyed was accompanying a violin studio recital. I don't remember how the violin teacher and I connected, but she asked if I would accompany her students for their spring recital. So I went one day to rehearse with all of them and then went back a few days later for the recital. The music wasn't difficult and it was a relatively painless gig. I've, of course, accompanied loads and loads of instrumentalists and singers for all kinds of performances. I remember early in my career being hired as an accompanist for the Nats auditions, which is a national organization for singers. And for these particular Nats auditions, there was a pianist in each audition room, and the students would come in one at a time, hand me their music, and I would sight read it. So it was a lot of pressure. Sometimes I knew the songs, but I was pretty green at that point. So a lot of the repertoire was new to me. And I had to make sure that I caught on really quickly to the tempo and style and was able to follow the singer and not throw them off. I also used to accompany students who were auditioning for college. So they would come in to sing for the choral and voice faculty. And you can imagine how nervous they were. And I had to sight read whatever they brought into me, and I had to be the calm one who made them look good to the faculty, no matter what was actually happening in the audition. So if they were singing a song in 4/4 time that was supposed to be in 3/4 time, I just had to play along and try to help them be successful because that's what I was hired to do. Orchestral pianist is another gig that I've done. Again, there are pianists who specialize in this and have a full-time gig with a major orchestra, but my experience has been on smaller stages. I played with the university orchestra when I was in grad school. I've played with hired orchestras for church concerts. I even played with a middle school orchestra that just needed a little extra support for the string section that was having a hard time staying in tune and keeping a steady beat. No matter the circumstance, the challenge of playing with orchestra is using your eyes to always be watching the conductor rather than listening and responding to what you hear. I've also accompanied operas. Typically, these were at the universities where I was a staff accompanist, and it was part of my job description to play for the operas, whether they were doing a full show or scenes from different shows. Of course, these operas were typically written for a full orchestra, but if the school wasn't able to hire an orchestra, they would have me play the orchestral reduction for the show. We'll dive into orchestral reductions in another video because it is a whole topic on its own. Honestly, I could go on and on about all the gigs I've had as a pianist. This doesn't even cover them all. Many people think that it's nearly impossible to make a living as a working pianist, but I hope you can see from this video that there are tons of opportunities out there for you. If you need a little help getting your first gig or perhaps your next gig, I have a short course called the Piano Gig Starter Kit that gives my best tips for landing your first gig and showing up professionally. The link is in the description below. Be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already so you never miss a video, and I will see you back here very soon.